Mitchell, we cannot see you. Oh, there you are. Uh-oh. All right. Well, welcome to the show, everybody. I am your host, Evan. Joining me, as always, on Internet Uncapped is Mitchell, or as he sometimes calls himself these days, Mitchy Poppy, which I don't have an opinion on that, but we'll just
You're
stick with
welcome.
it. You like it. Yeah, you're welcome. But today, we'll see how it goes, but we may or may not do either a short or a regular long episode. But today we got to do a lot of talking because we
Mhm.
want to go over a topic that we've been meaning to go over for a bit since the show started. We had a lot of ideas while we were developing the show. One of
Mhm.
those ideas was talking about Marvel and DC, the state of Marvel and DC in terms of their movies, their TV shows, their video games, maybe even their comics when we get to it. And believe me, when we get to comics, I will have a lot to say about that stuff. But as we are a mostly, internet, pop culture, multimedia show, we wanted to go over one of their most recent movies for Marvel, which is the Thunderbolts. Justice like lightning, as the comic books would say, they didn't have that moniker in the you know movie. But I want to just share my screen super quickly on a couple different things because before we get to our review, because we're going to review the movie, Mitchell and I saw it. We had a really good
Mhm.
time with it. But there are a lot of different variations of the Thunderbolts. And the very first one, which you will see on the screen right here,
Yep. Give me
this
one
is the
second.
original from 1997. And it features a lot of different characters that I don't think a lot of people are going to recognize. That's actually on purpose. They didn't use a lot of these characters in the movie. But basically, you have Citizen V, you have Atlas, you have Moonshine, you have I think her name was it was Songbird, Citizen V, or not Citizen V. I forget what these two are, but they're irrelevant. Well, the original Thunderbolts, just really quickly, just to explain to the audience, the original Thunderbolts is very similar to what happens in the movie, where the Avengers are gone. They are nowhere to be seen. There are no heroes. Well, these guys take their place and they become the premier superheroes for what's going on right now. Well, in the comics, there is a twist, a really, really big twist. One of the best twists in comic history, many would argue. And that is that these guys are actually not superheroes. They are super villains disguised as superheroes. And specifically, they were the masters of evil. So, and they all had, they were all, well established supervillains and they posed as superheroes. This guy, Citizen V, is actually Baron Zemo, who we see in the movies. Baron Zemo does not have a role in the Thunderbolts for this specific version, but I would not be too surprised if down the road he does have a role later on. But in this version, in the comics, Baron Zemo was the leader of the original Thunderbolts. Eventually, they're like, wait a minute, we actually do want to be good guys. We want to be reformed. We want to do good shit. We don't want to be bad guys posing as good guys anymore. So they kick him out of the curve, and eventually they become their own actual superhero team. And there are many different versions. I'll just really quickly, Mitchell, I just want to show the audience a few more versions if we can find where they are.
Yes. Make sure you share your screen.
Yep. And so we have this version. This is an all red version. You had Red Hulk, you have Punisher, Deadpool, Venom, and Elektra. And this is sort of an all red sort of Thunderbolts team right here. You have this next one coming up, which is a different version than those two. So one of them was supervillain, the other one was sort of special ops, covert, and all of that. And this next one is sort of an all the one of them is actually supervillain, but the rest are actually newer heroes. And Hawkeye is leading this team. There's sort of a New York city run by the city government, that kind of team. And then, of course, finally, we have the team that we are going to talk about today. This is a bit of a long-winded, you know, introduction, but we are going to go over this team, the current team that we have here. We have Yelena, who is the adoptive sister of the Black Widow, Red Guardian, who is their adoptive father, Bucky, Ghost, U.S. Agent, or uh, Walker, whatever, Taskmaster, and of course, Bob. And we'll get into Bob in a minute. We'll also be doing some spoilers. We'll let you know when we get into spoiler territory, and I will make sure to tell everybody where the timestamps are so they can skip it. We're gonna go over everything. We're gonna
Yep.
go over the
Uh-huh.
plot. We're gonna go over specific spoilers. So, I'm gonna kick things off now with our review of Thunderbolts. Thunderbolts was very interesting because right around now, there's just been a whole slew of not high quality Marvel movies right now, and they're doing a lot of restructuring. So this is a movie that I think really needed to prove to the general audience that they're listening and that they can actually prove quality storytelling and not just putting out a bunch of stuff out there that is super not great quality. The Thunderbolts, they all meet up. They're hired killers from many of Marvel's properties, mainly the TV show Falcon and the Winter Soldier and Black Widow, but also you had Ghost, who was from Ant-Man and the Wasp. You also had Taskmaster from Black Widow. You also had Bucky from all the Captain America stuff, whatever. But mainly it's those 2 shows. They all come together, they have a goal in mind. They're all, assigned by, Valentina, whatever the hell, Elaine from Seinfeld, Julia Louis-Dreyfus. And so she says, "Well, you gotta go and you gotta get this person, you have to kill them." And it turns out that they all got duped because, it turns out that they all were um, hired to kill each other and just completely just wipe each other out so that she could clean slate completely. The reason why is because there is a secret project called the Sentry Project that is actually going to replace the Avengers, and the Sentry Project is going to actually be like the world's like super soldiers or whatever. So these kind of like killers, they kind of team up and they're like, okay, we got to get rid of Valentina. There's a whole thing there. And they find out that this one guy named Bob is attached to the Sentry Project and he becomes the superhero known as the Sentry. Now, this is not all spoilers. This is all pretty well produced, well advertised. The Thunderbolts was, in my opinion, a very different take on these characters. There's a lot of different takes on the characters. They mixed and matched a few different things here and there. It was a good time. I really appreciated that they really put a lot of emphasis on the mental health aspect of all of these characters and all of these contracted killers and characters that we've sort of been introduced to throughout all of the different movies and some of the TV shows, but also grounding it on the central conflict with the Sentry and the main conflict there. I won't get into it too much, but if you see the sort of the black guy with the creepy eyes, we'll get into that later. But that's sort of what's going on. It's at that point. The hero stuff I thought was a little weak. The way they came together didn't quite gel. It wasn't as compelling, but the overall, conflict, the overall way that mental health was handled, how sort of, trying to build a support system for yourself, even among people who you may or may not like at first, but you want to have to work together. You have to get along with them in order to achieve a certain goal. I thought that was all really solid and all really good, and hopefully, um, this team can carry throughout the rest of the different movies that are coming down the road. I think they all really had a good dynamic with each other, but I think that hopefully they can have a strong, like just a stronger sense of like who these characters are, what the storytelling is. But it was still, I thought it was very good, and I really appreciated what they did for this version. Even if there were parts that were a little different and parts that were a little weak, what was good, and what could have been improved upon, hopefully they can do down the road in the future. So that being said, Mitchell, what were your thoughts on Thunderbolts?
Yeah. So, first things first. I don't know the comic book side of it, so I'm just gonna throw that out there completely. I am a filthy casual. I just know the movies. And that's the extent of my knowledge. Um, I don't know. Like you mentioned, they had the Red Thunderbolts. They had the Black Ops Thunderbolts, the New York Thunderbolts. You know, they had all these different ones. And to me, Thunderbolts was the movie that came out on May 2nd, buddy. And that's it for me. And that's
Yeah.
open closed. That's
Open
it.
shut. Yeah.
Yeah. We're gonna break it down, like not scene by scene, but we're gonna go, beginning to end.
Right.
But one thing I will say is, Marvel. One thing that, um, as of recently, we noticed is that they've struggled with trying to put out a good product, and some of that I think has
Right.
to do with bringing in likable people, bringing in
Mm.
like actors and actresses that can, not just play the role right, but can make it believable, that can go ahead and be relatable to audiences. Obviously that also takes with that's also on the, behind the scenes side, like how's the writing, how's the, the screenplay, how is all this stuff, is it good, is it bad, there's a lot that you have to take into consideration. But when I look at this, this movie, we talked about it, off air. Excuse me. Florence Pugh. Um, she plays Black Widow slash Yelena. Um, I've seen her in other stuff, and I think that every role she takes, I think she's phenomenal. I think, and I said this to you when we were talking about this. Um, she reminds me a lot of Adam Driver, where she
Right.
has range,
Yeah.
and she can do. I think she could do multiple, types of characters, and can do different types of films. And she has the ability to make herself seem vulnerable while also still being a badass. And not too many people can pull that off. Like I liked, Scarlett Johansson as Black Widow, but they didn't really. There was times where she kind of came off as vulnerable, but not like Florence. Florence does such a great job of really just being, you feel pity for her. There's a scene we're going to talk about where it goes to her younger years when she was in the Red program. Excuse me.
The
Um,
Red Room program. Yeah.
yeah, Red Room
Hmm.
program. Yeah, exactly. And it really gets to you, and she sells it perfectly,
Perfect.
perfectly. And when in the other Black Widow film with Scarlett Johansson being, the lead, they mentioned it too, and it's sad. You go ahead and you're like, oh man, that's crazy. I can't believe they did that to young kids. But it's not the same. It didn't hit the same for me. It didn't hit the same for me like this did.
Yeah.
Um, and again, this is where it comes back to, the actors, the range. How can they go ahead and sell this? But also the writing. So maybe I'm being too harsh on Scarlett. But I just think Florence did such a wonderful job. Um, Also, Wyatt Russell, the U.S. agent,
Yes.
he played a perfect asshole. Like,
He did.
every
Yeah.
chance he got, he was just like shitting on everybody, giving them a hard time. I thought like he just plays the uh, perfect douchebag. I don't know how to
That's
put
pretty
it.
much it. Yeah.
Yeah, like
Totally.
that's,
Yeah.
every scene he's there, like he's always talking shit, and then he's just like wants to go in guns blazing. I respect it. And Wyatt Russell, when they first introduced him in, it was the, um Winter Soldier. It was Falcon and the Winter Soldier. I
He
was,
was the Captain America in that show, but yeah.
yeah, yeah. When they first introduced him, I got really nervous for him, and the reason being is because you look at just how Chris Evans played such a great Captain America,
Yeah.
that sometimes, people will go ahead and like, if you didn't know any better. I actually had someone, it wasn't you, but it was actually someone else that told me about the comic book. They're like, yeah, no, he's going to turn into this. And I went, oh, okay.
Hmm.
But if I didn't know that, then it probably would have been worse for me. But
Sure.
to
Sure.
go ahead and to even just just to have the shield, even though it doesn't have the star on it,
Hmm.
people, but the way that he fights, the way that he does a lot of things, it's very similar to Captain America that we know it from the earlier, Marvel movies during this whole, during these phases. And I was getting worried that a lot of people would go ahead and say, Wyatt does a really good job, but Chris is so much better. And sometimes you just hate to hear those, comparisons. And I'm going to take it to the wrestling world for 1 second.
Mhm.
Um,
Go ahead. Yeah, sure.
there
There's
was
some
a guy.
parallels between comics and wrestling, so you
Yeah,
know, go for it. Yeah.
yeah. There's a guy, CM Punk. Everyone knows who CM Punk is. He does the GTS, to go to sleep, puts him on his shoulder, throws him, hits him. There was a guy named Hideo, and I can't remember his last name, but he was on NXT. He kept getting hurt all the time, and he never really got a chance to show what he could do in WWE. Well, he was actually using the GTS beforehand, but because CM Punk was in America, on the U.S. market, and he was doing it all the time on WWE, the biggest wrestling promotion, everyone's like, "Oh, that's CM Punk's move. That's CM Punk's move." So when Hideo did it, everyone was like, "It's cool, but it's kind of Punk's thing," even though this guy was the originator. And he often got a lot of those criticisms, like, "Oh, Punk does that. He should do something else." And
Right.
it really sucked for him. It really did suck for him. And that's what I was worried about with Wyatt Russell.
Ah, yeah.
But
Sure.
those were to me, those were probably the two brightest stars in this whole film. But my favorite character, the Red Guardian, David Harbour. I loved him in Black Widow. I love him now. The scene where he is asking Black Widow in the Black Widow film, does he mention me? Does he talk about me? And he's asking about Captain America, and she's like, "No, I haven't seen you for years, and you're worried about this." And then he was like we're rivals. That's how it is. And it's like, no.
Right.
And then in this movie, when he shows up, oh man, it's every scene with him is fantastic. We're going to talk about one scene in particular.
Yep.
When we went to go watch it live, no one laughed besides me, and it was absolutely fantastic. But yeah, it is what it is. But those Ghost was a cool addition. I wanted more screen time from Ghost, and this is where I
Yeah.
think, you look at Bucky or Sebastian Stan. He's had all the Marvel, like all the Avenger movies prior. He's had the series, and you look at David Harbour. He's had, the Black Widow film. Florence,
Right.
she had the Black Widow film, and then she had the Hawkeye series. She was in that too. You look at Wyatt Russell again with Captain with Hawkeye, not Hawkeye, with Winter Soldier, the series.
Falcon and Winter Soldier. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Falcon and Winter Soldier. And
Hmm.
then they kind of just threw Ghost in there, and Ghost again not having screen time prior to that. I felt as though there should have been more. There should have
Yeah.
been more screen time just to kind of establish the character a little bit more.
I
I mean,
agree with that.
unless if they plan to do something later where Ghost gets their own film,
Hmm.
but that's a whole other thing.
Ghost, just to clarify, Ghost actually was the main, well, not quite the main antagonist, but a main antagonist in the Ant-Man and the Wasp movie. So she was there, but I agree with you that she didn't have a lot of development for this movie. And I actually would have liked it.
Hmm.
She had some good stuff going on. She had a sort of a tragic backstory. There was some stuff with her father, who was the previous ghost. Like there was some stuff, but I agree with you that I wanted more. And she played off very well with the rest of the cast. I think they had good chemistry. She had a little bit of stuff going on, but I think that it speaks to one of the problems, nothing horrible, but the fact that they didn't flesh out each of the characters in the same way that they fleshed out all the characters in their own separate movies, like up leading up to the Avengers. It was like these were characters that we've seen, we were familiar with, but they just sort of came together and we kind of had to like piece together where we knew them from, which is a little
Hmm.
different. And hopefully, and I do think they will fix that going forward, but that has been one of the artifacts of the problems that Marvel has sort of had lately. So I think that your comments reflect that for sure.
Yeah, and I remember like Ant-Man and the Wasp, but like that was 2018. Like that's so
Exactly.
long ago.
It was
I
7 years ago, and you haven't seen Ghost since then.
Yeah,
So it doesn't make sense to like just somehow try to remember a movie from 7 years ago.
yeah, because when you look at like when did I'm gonna search it up now. When did Falcon and the Winter Soldier come out?
That was like 2021 or
Yeah, so all the yeah
2022,
2020
maybe.
2021.
Yeah,
So a lot of this stuff is 2021 and beyond.
Yeah, no, for real.
That's got to be the oldest character. Yeah, and
Yeah, and in recent years, like for example, Black Panther, uh, Black Widow recently,
mhm,
and Falcon and the Winter Soldier, they set up Valentina to try to like tease that the Thunderbolts are coming.
mhm,
So they were doing that a little bit, but it hasn't been to a significant degree in the same way that Nick Fury was in the early Marvel movies, and he was kind of teasing the Avengers, and
mhm.
it's a little it doesn't it's very tiny compared to that. It doesn't
Yeah,
feel significant. It's
and
like, okay, it's there, but like, so what?
yeah, and then I also searched up Hawkeye. The TV show was 2021, so was the Black Widow movie. So again, a lot of these people are from 2021.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is like absolutely crazy to me. And again, Ghost was 2018, 7 years later. Oh my
Yeah.
god, almost got the GTA 6 treatment.
She should have had more development because of the fact that it was so long ago, but
Yeah,
she didn't. Yeah,
yeah. I didn't even think about like how long ago it was, like until you just
totally.
mentioned it, and I was like, wait, let me actually like search that up because like I saw Ant-Man and the Wasp. I didn't see it when it was in theaters. I saw it when it went to I might have watched it on Disney Plus if I remember correctly. I don't remember, but
Hmm.
I did see the Quantumania. I did see that one.
Oh God,
I
yeah.
saw that one in theater. I was not too happy about that one.
I'm
Um,
currently watching it on Disney Plus, and I am not happy with it either. It's so
yeah,
bad. Oh.
it was. It's not the
Anyway, we'll
worst,
we'll get
but
to
yeah,
that
we'll do.
later.
That's another one. We'll have to.
That's another time, but
But yeah,
ugh.
again, like I just felt as though, like you noted, 7 years. Like I just felt like Ghost deserved more, and even in that movie, you don't really get too much about Ghost.
Yes.
It's Ghost is there, and because it's Ant-Man and the Wasp movie. It's not Ant-Man and the Wasp plus Ghost. It's Ant-Man and the Wasp. Like again,
Right.
I would like to know more about the character. I want to get more backstory. And unfortunately you couldn't do that because we'll talk about Bob in a little bit.
Right.
But yeah, I mean you just couldn't do it because of the story and the way that it's told.
Yeah. Totally. Yeah. Um.
So yeah, I think we should just jump into excuse me, jump into the um, breaking it down.
Yeah, so this is our spoiler section. I will let you know where to go and then where to end it, and then we'll move on with the rest of our coverage. But this is spoiler territory for Thunderbolts asterisks. So, okay. All right. So now that we're in the zone, um, we will say that Bob was just a guy, and he was in one of the containers of this like secret facility base that was on top of like this mountain or whatever somewhere. I forget where the facility even was,
Mhm,
but as it turns out, he actually was one of the surviving test subjects of Project Sentry, and he has the power of the Sentry. And there's also another thing, which is, oh, by the way, he also has a separate personality, a very dark personality called the Void, which is a huge thing in the comics. But definitely this interpretation, I think this was something that a lot of people were worried about because either they were going to botch it and they were going to make it like total crap and they were going to water it down like they've been known to do because they want to appeal to general audiences. And I can't blame them, but also, you want to get these things right at the same time,
mhm.
or it was going to be freaking awesome. Well, the end result was it was freaking awesome. And really quickly, I'm going to pull up the Void right now so people can see what he looks like. And his design is a little different than the comics, but nonetheless incredibly like creepy and like badass at the same time. Just give me a second, really quickly. All right, this is probably the best one I can find. I want to really have one that accentuated his features, one particular feature, but I'll mention that right now because we're doing spoiler coverage. I think is it this one? Yeah. Okay, so as you can see, it's a pretty simple design. He's all in black. But what you can't really see very clearly are that you can see the literal whites of his eyes, and they're like these tiny little pinhole lights. And seeing it on the big screen, it made me so uneasy, but it was so like really unique and cool. Another thing about Bob or and Sentry and the Void was that they actually shared that they were inspired. Um, they actually they
Yep.
were inspired by the shadows that were left during the Hiroshima and Nagasaki bombings. So what happened was that the void just enveloped everything, took everyone with him, and they all disappeared. And what was left were these shadows, and that's was inspired by the Hiroshima and Nagasaki bombs when people were blown away, and then that was left. So that was a pretty spooky, pretty creepy thing,
Hmm.
and to combine that with the mental health sort of themes was really, I thought that it worked really well. Lewis Pullman and even Wyatt Russell to a degree, they are both the sons of Kurt Russell and Bill Pullman. And what's crazy is that both of them, they could basically be clones of their fathers. Like
Hmm.
they are their sons, of course, but they embody their energies so uncannily, that they were perfect for their roles. Lewis Pullman actually took over from Stephen Yeun, because Stephen Yeun was supposed to be Bob, but he did such an amazing job after, and Stephen Yeun pulled out of the project. He couldn't do it because of time constraints. But Lewis Pullman, as Bob, he was kind of like the audience's eyes and ears, because he was like, he doesn't quite know what's going on. He doesn't know why everyone's fighting. And also at the same time, he has his own internal stuff, and he has his own baggage as a person, and he's trying to
Hmm.
overcome a lot of it. But he doesn't know quite how, and he doesn't know like what it all means. I think that it was a very interesting choice, that to really show that these guys, even though they're contract killers and they hate each other, they all hate each other, but they just met Bob, and they at the very least have to try to get Bob out of there, because he's
Hmm.
an innocent guy in all of this. None
Yeah.
of these other people are innocent. Yelena has killed people. U.S. agent went totally, crazy berserk during the show. Falcon the Winter Soldier. Ghost is not innocent either. None of these people are innocent. Bob is the only innocent one. So they're like, all right, let's just try to get out of here. Let's try to work together and figure it out. And then by the very end, when Bob actually confronts the void, confronts literally his feelings, he's punching him in the face and everything. And they're all
Let's.
like, you know what? What's more important? What
Yeah.
did they
Let's.
get enveloped in his own feelings and his own anger and frustration, or that we can actually pull him out of it and we can defeat the void in a way that is healthy, and that actually we can do it together as a team.
Hmm.
So all of these different things were incredibly well realized and well done. And even if the hero stuff I thought was weak, the conflict, and especially leading to that third act and the climax, I thought was incredibly well done.
Hmm. Now, before so I want to start with like the opening. So like in the very beginning,
Yeah.
you kind of see um Black Widow going ahead and doing the usual. She's going through her job, taking people out, doing all the dirty work
Yes.
for Angela or whatever her name is, Angelini.
Valentina, but yeah.
Yeah, Valentina. Valentine does something 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 something
Yeah,
something
something,
something
something, something,
something.
blah, blah, blah,
Yeah,
whatever.
it's Valentine. It's Valentina Allegra, something like that. De Fontaine or something.
De Fontaine, yeah.
So, it shows Black Widow going ahead and going through all the routine. Going ahead and trying to destroy everything or steal stuff and get things for Valentina. After that, when they do first meet Bob, what ends up happening is um, Valentina gives them all different jobs. She says, Black Widow,
Yes.
you have to kill Ghost.
Right.
Ghost, you have to kill Taskmaster. Taskmaster, you have to kill US Agent. US Agent, you have to kill Black Widow. And this is all done in hopes to go ahead and for them to kill each other,
Right.
because Valentina is trying to bury any and all things that she has done illegally or behind the behind the scenes with without the government's knowing.
Right.
So, to go ahead and to for her to get involved in these black ops, obviously there was some things that she was playing around with that she didn't understand, or that she was trying to play God, for lack of a better term. She was trying to
Right.
go ahead and make it so she was in charge of anything and everything. Well, it turns out they were doing a program called Sentry,
Right.
which we'll get to in a little bit. But like you noted, Bob, he goes ahead and the team finds him. They have no idea who the hell Bob is. They're trying to figure out. They're like, who is this random guy? Where did he come from? And he's kind of a little bit like loopy, and I think it's because he's been knocked out for so long. God knows how long he's been knocked out for and what drugs he was on.
Right.
So he was just completely knocked out. He's out of it. He's out of the loop, and the team is trying to figure out one, why are we all sent here? Two, who the hell is this guy?
Right.
And like you noted, they all band together because they're just like, we might be terrible, terrible, terrible people. Bob, pretty cool guy.
He's
Pretty
just
cool
an innocent guy. We just got to get him out of here, and we'll figure out our business later.
Yeah, he's a Capricorn. Anyway, they go ahead and they start going through. They start going through the motion of trying to get out. There's some funny stuff there. We hear them start yelling, "Cucumber, cucumber, cucumber," which is what Bob does to go ahead and not sneeze. He tries to distract himself. And they end up fighting the Valentina's little private militia, her little private army. They end up fighting them, and they escape. Kind of, sort of. Everyone escapes except for Bobby Boy.
Right.
And during the height of the escape, what ends up happening is they open fire on Bobby Boy. And when they do, they realize, oh, the bullets didn't hurt him. Sheesh. And he starts flying up in the air. And after he starts flying up in the air, he doesn't know how to control anything. So he falls back down. Kaploosh. He puts a hole in the ground. And everyone's like, what the hell is going on? What is this? How did this happen? Well, Valentina went, light bulb. And she said, pack him up. I know what to do. I know exactly what to do.
Let's haul ass. Get him ready.
Mm-hmm. So team goes ahead and they decide to leave. So again, it's Black Widow, U.S. Agent, and Ghost. So they're leaving the facility. Oh, we forgot to mention Taskmaster. We forgot to mention that.
Yeah. Let's talk about the one thing really quickly. Taskmaster was one of the antagonists in Black Widow. The worst part of that movie, in my opinion, and it was a wasted opportunity because it was basically one of the villains, and they repurposed her into a droid who, they can control her body and she can copy all the moves of all these people, when the real Taskmaster in the comics is an actual human being guy, and he's a total jackass, and he's a jerk, and he actually has a real personality. So they put her again in here, and she doesn't talk, the character doesn't talk in Black Widow, the character doesn't talk in, Thunderbolts. They just cap her ass, and then she's dead, and then that's it for the rest of the movie. She's just a dead body throughout the rest of the movie.
Yeah, they acknowledge her once. They're just they're like, oh, how was that person I killed? Oh, well, she had a rough life. Well, don't we all? And then that's it. They just leave
and then just move on.
Okay, damn.
Plot ahead, full steam ahead. Yeah,
they hated the character
that was
that
a
much.
clumsy part, but it also was kind of funny because to me, it almost felt like the movie acknowledged that was a bad part of the movie, so they were just gonna wipe it clean and just be like, hey, it happened, but you know what, we're gonna start fresh. It's okay, but I don't know. I don't know.
It seems like they went ahead and they said, hey, yo, fam, we know we messed up.
Exactly.
She gone.
Well,
after that, the crew is leaving, and then they end up bumping into the Red Guardian. And when they bump into the Red Guardian, oh man, it's great. I love David Harbour. He made a movie for me. He's just comedic gold. So they go ahead and they bump into him, and they all go ahead and they get together and they start driving on the road. Now, meanwhile, while Valentina is trying to go ahead and trying to get rid of any trace of everything that she has done. There's actually like Congress members and everyone else within the political sphere trying to take her down. Bucky is one of those people. He is trying to figure out what is going on, what does she know, what is she hiding, why is she not turning stuff over. And so he's one of the political figures that we see. Well, again, they're doing this case. They're trying to look through every nook and every cranny, lift up every single rock, and trying to figure out what does she know, what is she hiding, uh, like why won't she hand it over, why won't she do this, why won't she do that, etc. And
Who is your daddy and what does he do?
who's your daddy and what does it do?
Yeah.
So they're doing all this, and they're again trying to figure out what they can do. Well, Bucky is trying anything and everything he can. He starts developing a relationship with Mel, who is actually the assistant to Valentina, and that becomes more vital as the movie progresses. So as you know, Valentina's trying to hide everything. Mel sees everything. She knows like what she's doing is messed up, and as Bucky kind of earns her trust, Mel lets him in on more and more, and tries to inform him about more and more of the things that she is doing. And the government, again, they're trying to figure out how can we go ahead and put this woman behind bars? How can we take her out of her role? And what does she know that she doesn't want the government to know? So um, Bucky goes ahead and he learns about like her trying to destroy the evidence over in the facility. And once that happens, he starts chasing after Black Widow, U.S. agent, now the Red Guardian, and Ghost. And he ends up catching up to them, pretty much detaining them by like wrapping them in chains and everything. And they start telling him the same story. There's a guy named Bob, and Valentina has him. She tried to kill us, and she's gonna go ahead and she's gonna use Bob. And then he's like, okay, yeah, Bob, okay, sure. And they're like, yeah, the Sentry Project. They're like, he's like, yeah, okay, the Sentry Project, whatever you guys say. He's not buying it. He's like, listen, I got you guys wrapped up. You guys are wanted. You're wanted criminals because you're part of Valentina's thing, and you're gonna testify against her, and so we can put her in jail. That's the whole thing.
Right.
Well, then he gets a call from Mel. Mel's just like, yeah, she got this guy named Bob, and he's part of the Sentry Project. And they're like, we told you. Yeah. And then now Bucky feels like an idiot.
Yeah.
So they go ahead and they get back on the road, again, trying to take down Valentina. Meanwhile, Valentina is, she's going ahead and trying to talk to Bob, trying to gain his trust, trying to use him as a weapon. And the way that she does that, she tries to relate. Well, Bob has a skill where he can go ahead and he can see like moments where, like some of your saddest moments.
Yeah.
That's what he can see. And he did it to Black Widow, and he did it to U.S. Agent. And again, this is a moment where he could have done it to Ghost, which frustrated me. He could have done it to Ghost,
Yeah.
and they never did it.
Or any of the or Red Guardian or
Yeah,
whatever.
he didn't do it to them. Yeah.
Yeah.
Bucky. Well, Bucky. Oh my God, if they did it for Bucky, it's a whole nother movie.
True. But the lesser characters, yeah.
Yeah. And then he did it to Valentina, and you get to learn a little bit about what happened with her and her childhood. It shows her father, getting mixed up with some bad mafioso types, and and he tells her, "I can do that to anyone," and she's like, "Okay, might have a use for that." Well, Valentina starts, coming up with schematics for an outfit, a name change, and everything because she wants to present Sentry as the next big thing, as like, oh, Captain America, that's okay. Iron Man, okay, it's a robot, guys. Sentry, psh, take a look at that guy. Bet you can't beat him in an arm wrestle, chump. That's what it boils down to. She just wants
Yeah.
a
Her
new,
whole pitch was
exciting story.
basically that this is better than the Avengers. We
Yep.
can make any kind of hero like this for the government, and they will be accountable to us.
Yep.
And the government's like, I don't know about that. I don't think we need to do that. But she's like, I think you do. And you might want to reconsider, even though you're like investigating me and like trying to impeach me and all this stuff. So,
Yep, exactly. And then you go ahead and the team finally shows up. where they have Bob locked up, and they get up to the top floor, and they tell Valentina, "You're under arrest. You're all this stuff. We're gonna go and take care of you." The team then tries to fight Bob, and Bob's like, "I don't want to fight you guys. Like, you guys are nice people." U.S. Agent's the first one to go. U.S. Agent's the first one to try to throw hands with them, and because he's the d bag of the group, everyone gets washed. Everyone
Yeah.
gets completely washed. Everyone's beaten up. They shoot him with bullets. Doesn't penetrate. Doesn't hurt him. They punch him. They kick him. Whatever. Nothing hurts him, and everyone gets their ass kicked. And after everyone gets their ass kicked, they literally leave. They go in the elevator and they leave. Um, and after they leave, they just start talking about, yeah, we got fucked up. That was bad. Yeah, we're not really superheroes. We're just people really good with guns. We're out of
We're
our
just like
league.
we're pieces of shit. We're not heroes. Like, what are we doing here? Like,
Yeah, exactly. And then Bob starts going on a power trip on Valentina of all people, where excuse me, he starts telling her, if I can do anything and everything, why do I need to listen to you? You already said I'm like a god. Gods don't listen to humans. And it kind of like, it's a little scary. It's like, oh shit. Oh, damn. Okay, Bob. I see you there, Bob.
yeah.
Let's see what you're doing there, Bob. And as he's trying to like turn on Valentina, she realizes, oh, you a smart motherfucker. Bam. She tries to hit the red button, doesn't work. But who comes in? Mel. Mel comes in, hits the red button, bam. They kill Bob, or so they think.
Quote unquote.
And then comes the Void. Evan, take it from here.
Yeah, and then he turns all black. You see those creepy pinhole eyes. And then basically, the Void is like, I'm just gonna destroy everything, and then he just completely envelops all of New York City, or not all, but like this one neighborhood in New York City, into the big black void. Everyone's disappearing left and right. This is like the second coming of the Snap, like in Avengers, Infinity War, and Endgame. It's getting really crazy. Yelena goes in, and she's like, I can stop this. I know, Bob. We connected during that whole mission. I can do this. I am his friend. I'm gonna go in, and we'll see. And she doesn't know. Like, she doesn't know she's gonna die. She doesn't know anything. Like, she doesn't know what in the world she's doing. But you know what? She's gonna go ahead and go in. And everyone else is freaking out, and they're like, "Oh my god! Like, she went in, and like she may die. What are we gonna do? Oh, we don't know. But let's just try to save as many people as possible." From that point forward, like what Mitchell was saying before, she then goes through and correct and try. If you can remind me the name of it was, what was it called? It was like a something room, like a oh god, let me look
What,
it up.
what are you talking about?
The
When,
when she goes into the void,
yeah.
and she called it like a something room, like it was like a mental, I don't know, not a mental health room, but like it was
Uh,
like it had a very specific name. I'm gonna look this up super fast, people. I apologize. We might want to cut this if it's a little too long. Void Room Marvel. What was it called? It was called the. Oh my god, I can't find it. All right. Well, anyway, there was like it was like a very special. It was like a safe space, or like a void space. Was it the void space? Yeah. Anyway,
yeah, it
something
might
like that.
have been.
Anyway, Mitchell, you look it up while I'm talking, but these are basically like moments that she was in that space when Bob first touched her. Now she's going back into her own memories that were, sort of traumatic, or upsetting, or whatever. And it's this sort of trippy sequence. She then goes to she actually crashes through one of her memories to go into another memory. And this memory was actually very similar to one of the Red Room sequences when they were much younger. And she was actually punished with all the girls like staring at her because she had like misbehaved and didn't do as the headmistress wanted her to. And so then, and that was a really interesting, very, very well realized scene just about her past. And oh, do you have it or
It's called Void Space.
voids? It was void space. So yeah, so these are different void spaces, and each of the void space is like a different memory. And so she actually was able to go through each of the different void spaces from her life, and then she was able to get to get to Bob and his space, and they were able to connect, and they were able to try to emotionally see if they can try to get to a place where they can figure out how to get out of this thing and whatever. Eventually each of the different members of the team, they have to go through their own void spaces. We don't really get a lot of time doing that for each of the characters. Oh, and before I continue, there is a moment where she basically is drinking to excess in her bathroom. It appeared as if she may have even self-harmed herself at one point. That
Mhm.
was a whole very trippy, very violent sort of sequence about her own mental health and about her own personal struggles. That was also I thought that was a really good scene. But anyway, eventually they all gather together. They all go through the void spaces together, and eventually, as I said earlier in the show, they do meet the void in the lab where we see the very first scene of the movie. And Bob is like, I'm not going to let you get away with this. These are my friends. People's lives are at stake, and I'm going to stop you. Well, it turns out that he is going to get enveloped by all of this darkness and all of this stuff just by confronting the darkness itself and trying to be a hero. And it's a crazy scene, and the team is pulled back. Yelena's like, you know what, screw it. I'm gonna go up to him, and we're gonna restrain Bob so that everything will be okay. But I'm gonna do it. And then she just gives him this big hug, and then everybody else is just going up to him and trying to pull him back and try to reassure him that everything was gonna be okay. And that was able to calm him down, and it defeated the void. So the void was he was able to get that in check and get that intact,
Mhm.
and they were able to save the day. Now, before we get to the really big reveal, the reason why there's an asterisk in the name Thunderbolts, Mitchell, go ahead and talk about the scene that wasn't meant to be funny, but you could not help but laugh at it. You go ahead before we get
Yeah,
into it. Play it.
love it,
Take it
love it.
away.
So, there when so before the void starts taking people out, Bob and Valentina's private military tried to go ahead and take out Bob. So like they had helicopters shooting at him and trying to destroy stuff. Well, the Void went ahead and took care of the helicopter and everything. So the helicopter crashes. Boom. Rocks are falling. The citizens are in danger. Oh my god, I can't believe this. I'm gonna die. Blah. So they go ahead and they get everyone inside. They save everyone. Everyone's like, yeah, we did a pretty good job. We did a pretty good job. the red the
Okay.
red the red guardian sees this one little girl like 7 or 8 years old, and the rock comes down. He goes ahead, hugs her. Rock hits him on the back, boom, splits in half. He goes ahead, he looks at her, he's like, you are now safe now, little girl. Boom. The void takes her. She just flashes, disappears. Now, when I tell you I laughed out loud, we went to the theater, me and Evan. We went to go to the watch it.
Yep.
I go ahead, I just go, I just burst out laughing because I thought it was the funniest shit. And then,
And the only reason I was laughing was because Mitchell was laughing, and I thought that was
yeah,
funny.
I
And I'm
started
like,
laughing.
holy shit.
Evan looks at me. He starts laughing. Everyone else in the theater is like, dude, that girl just died and you're
What's
laughing at.
wrong with you? Yeah.
Yeah. Funniest part. I don't care what anyone says. Hands down, great moment. Just,
It's
you are
terrible.
safe now, little girl. Dying. Could
God.
not stop laughing.
Yeah,
Um,
no, it was
Great moment. Great moment.
these are what movies are made for, folks.
Yeah.
So so eventually the team, they are tired. They are really exhausted. But they see Valentina and they're like, "This bitch, we're gonna fucking get you." and we're going to bring you in, and you are not going to get out of this. Oh, it turns out she actually staged a press conference. They're actually standing pretty well, like close to each other. And she announces that there's going to be a new initiative that she's created. And oh, by the way, it is the new Avengers. So,
Mhm.
yeah, that happened. And, obviously they're like caught off guard and they're like, what the hell? Now, obviously, Valentina is not in charge of the new Avengers. She kind of goes away. I don't really remember what happened to her. I don't think oh, maybe she was imprisoned. I don't remember her being imprisoned, but I just remember she kind of went away after that point. But Bucky's like, you know what? I'll take it over. I'm in charge. These guys, they proved themselves as heroes. They knew that they got their acts together. We will be the new Avengers from going forward, and that's fine. That's totally fine. So they are the new Avengers, and they got new costumes. Bucky, in particular, got a very swanky new costume that may
Mhm.
remind some current comic book readers about his recent redesign. I won't get into that too much, but he's not called the Winter Soldier in the comics anymore. But I won't get into that too much. But it's a cool design. It's a cool sort of thing development that happened with him. Well, they look at them. Oh, and Bob is with them too. So Bob is also officially an Avenger.
Mhm.
Unclear if he will be the Sentry going forward, but he's with them, and he's an Avenger. So that's pretty cool. That's pretty sick. But Bob says, "Oh, look at the monitor. Something's going on in the monitor." They look. There's a spaceship coming to Earth. That spaceship has a number 4 on the hull or the side there,
Mhm.
and that basically teases the next Avengers movie. But in addition to that, coming up will be the new Fantastic Four movie, First Steps, in July. So that really sets it up and makes it kind of a clean sort of entry point into ending from Phase 5, going into Phase 6. So if you are at this point in the video, we are done with spoilers. Totally done with spoilers. We will not spoil it for you. If you got it spoiled, that's your fault, not ours. We are now going to wrap up our Thunderbolts coverage by going over very quickly the things that are happening with Marvel. We may do another video in the future about just some of the other issues and problems that happen with Marvel, but we're just going to wrap things up and we're going to go over just a few things really quickly. I'm also going to link a Washington, or why do I say that? Wall Street Journal article regarding some of the internal changes within Marvel Studios. Before we do that, I want to just go over, Mitchell, something that we sort of talked about and touched upon very briefly, and
Mhm.
that is the fact that we know Marvel at the start, maybe the first decade, 11 years, they really were able to put out a lot of high quality movies, very good entry points for each of their different characters, and it all, setting up certain storylines and leading up to the big mega blockbuster movie of Avengers Infinity War and Avengers Endgame. What I am sharing now on the screen is we are looking at the different the different uh, uh, events, the different sagas of Marvel. So this is phases 1 through 3, Infinity Saga. This is my personal list, so this may not reflect your top 10 or top 20 or whatever. But in my book, Infinity War is the best of the bunch. Honestly, the best MCU movie that they've put out so far, just in terms of the scope, in terms of the epicness, in terms of the characters and how they all come together. There's a bit of nihilism in it. You can't also beat the first Iron Man movie. And then, the rest are sort of my own personal preferences, just in terms of I thought Doctor Strange was a movie that really aged quite well. And so it's pretty high up there for me. It may not be as high up there for you or for anybody else, but for me, I actually didn't, I thought it was just okay when I first saw it. But then over time, I appreciate it much more and I just love it. The Guardians movie, I like Thor Ragnarok, Civil War, Avengers, even the first Ant-Man, Black Panther, the Spider-Man movies. From there, it kind of dips in quality a little bit, but overall pretty good. and then eventually the sort of lesser movies, and of course the fact that Iron Man was followed up with the worst movie in this period, the Incredible Hulk, and Thor: The Dark World and Age of Ultron, not that great. But as you can see, they were putting out, even for all the stinkers or the ones that didn't quite work, there were a lot of really high quality, very exciting, very engaging movies that really worked, and that general audiences and even people who were comic book fans like myself could really sink their teeth into, in terms of this shared universe that really hadn't been attempted in the way that it has before, and it hasn't been matched by anybody yet. DC pending, we'll see what happens. Now, if you compare that with what's going on right now, there's a very big difference. Very, very stark, very noticeable difference. So I'll show you in a minute. So here's my list of the multiverse saga. And there's a very noticeable dip in quality. The only movies that, in my opinion, were like really high quality and quite great, I liked No Way Home a lot, and a lot of people love Guardians 3. And I really like Guardians 3,
I
but
do
I
too.
really like No Way Home just a little more, and it's my favorite. Um, Wakanda Forever I thought was good, but not as good as the first movie.
Agreed.
Deadpool Wolverine I thought was also good. Shang-Chi, Thunderbolts, but then you start to see a dip in quality. Multiverse of Madness, Your Violet May
Yeah, I
Vary,
wasn't
Love and
wasn't
Thunder,
happy about
it's
it.
okay.
I
Black
was
Widow, eh.
mid.
Captain America, whatever. Eternals, who cares? The
Yeah,
Marvels, whatever.
god awful.
And Quantumania was
Yeah,
bad.
it sucked. And then
It
you have
sucked. It's
and then
a
and then
donkey
you
shit.
have
Anyway,
Fantastic Four there. You have the new Spider-Man. You have the stuff that's
yeah.
obviously
Now
hasn't
these
come
are
out yet.
unranked, just so we're clear. These
Yeah,
haven't come out yet, so I haven't put them anywhere in the ranking. But when they come out, I actually am a little more confident that they will be up there in terms of quality. But you don't see as much really solid quality in this phase, the multiverse saga, in the same way that the Infinity Saga did. And I think one of the reasons, and I think you and I talked about this off screen, Mitchell, you know, the Infinity Saga had a very clear plan. They
yeah,
knew the stuff that they wanted. They knew what they wanted to build up toward. They If they had to take a little more time to get to certain things, they would be able to,
yes,
because it was flexible, it was moldable. They didn't need to rush too much to get
mhm,
to the big giant Infinity War and Endgame.
yeah,
This, there was no plan. Multiverse Saga is just multiverse stuff for multiverse sake, and you could
mhm,
do this and you can do that, and you could, and there just is no sense of cohesion, and the individual movies were not strong in
yeah.
this
Eh,
particular phase, this
eh,
particular saga. Excuse me. It didn't happen that
mm,
way. One of
and
the
to talk
main
about,
things. Before I let you go, just one really quick thing. They are doing a lot of restructuring going forward.
mhm,
One of the things that the Wall Street Journal article talks about is the fact that Kevin Feige has been split in multiple different directions, and that Disney had been just kind of like just churning out a bunch of these movies on a conveyor belt, not really thinking about quality, not thinking about story. They just want content and content out there and a whole bunch of big bucks money. Going forward, they want to keep Kevin Feige in a really central role in the same way that it had been succeeding in the Infinity Saga, and that will help with the creative drive that he's been able to achieve, but also not stretch him too thin. I
mhm.
hope that this succeeds, but we will see what happens as we go from Fantastic Four and into the next phase. So, Mitchell, go ahead. What are your thoughts?
Yeah. So the thing that I was going to throw out there is, like you noted with, just like trying to go ahead, and it seemed like they were just trying to produce. They weren't but produce quantity, not quality.
Right.
And I think the other thing that happened too is like, we talked about it earlier, was, the right people. You got to bring in the right people.
Yeah.
Um, I think that when you look at that first group that did the Avengers film, Scarlett Johansson, Robert Downey Jr., um, Chris Evans, You know, all of them bought in. They bought in. Like they got a tattoo. They got the Avengers tattoo because they loved doing the movie so much, and they loved working with each other. Everyone cared about each other, and they were proud about what they did. They knew that it was something big. It was something major, and they bought in and they did the best that they could to make it mean something. Now it seems as though like they're trying to bring people in and they're just not hitting the right type of people to go ahead and to do the play the right role,
Yeah.
um, and it's unfortunate. Again, that's why I give Florence so much praise because I think she again the range that she has is fantastic. But that's not to take away from the other people like Ryan Reynolds. He does a great job with Deadpool. He is the perfect Deadpool.
Yeah.
I can't think of anyone else that can play Deadpool better than
No.
him. He does a great job doing that. Um, Tom Holland, he does a great Spider-Man.
Yeah.
We grew up when we were young kids. It was Tobey Maguire was the guy, and
Toby. Yeah.
looking back at it, Tobey Maguire, he did do a great job. I will say, I think he did great. I thought Andrew Garfield did great. Although I will say with Andrew Garfield, I didn't like the villains. That was the one thing that was killed. I didn't like the villains. I was like, excuse me. They got great people. Jamie Foxx was awesome. He was awesome.
Yeah.
Didn't like his villain though. I was like, oh, but Jamie Foxx did great job. Like you could tell it was great. But
Yeah.
Andrew Garfield, and I want them to finish his story. Give him one more movie. Give Andrew Garfield one more Spider-Man movie.
I agree with you.
Let
Yeah.
let it finish. And Tobey Maguire, give him one more too. Let
Hmm.
him just let wrap up their stories, please.
Yeah.
They deserve it. And especially when you look at the newest Spider-Man movie, where how great that was. Like they talked about how much they love going back to Spider-Man. Let them do it one more time. Just one
Yeah.
more movie for both of them. Let them finish it up. Dunzo. Um, and sorry, that was a side thing. But
Go
like
ahead. No, no.
again,
We're
when,
talking about the multiverse. I
yeah,
mean, that is a part of it for
yeah,
sure.
but when you look at that with Spider-Man, they've had three different Spider-Mans. All of them were great.
Yeah.
Do you trust this studio to go ahead and if they had to pick a new Iron Man, do you trust them to pick the right guy? I don't.
It's hard to tell, but probably not. No.
I don't trust them to do it. I don't trust them to pick another Captain America. I don't trust
Yeah.
them to pick new people to replace the old guys. And this is something I told you, I think yesterday, maybe the day before yesterday, when it comes to um, Black Panther.
Yeah.
It's going to be tough. It's
It's
going to
gonna be
be
tough.
tough because everyone's always going to say, well, Chadwick Boseman was such a great, and that's not to take away from whoever this new actor is. It's just because Chadwick Boseman was perfect. What's that meme from the boys? Perfect. Everything down to the last minute detail. Perfect. Or
Yeah.
whatever it
Or
is.
whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. But he was awesome. He did such a great job and he made the character awesome. And
Yeah.
every Marvel movie that he was a part of, whether it was the Captain America, Civil War, the both of the Avenger films, like I thought he was awesome. I thought he did such a great job, and I wanted to see more of him. Unfortunately, timely passing, can't control that,
Yeah.
but
It's
he
very
did.
sad.
He did do such a great job.
Absolutely. No, you can't replace that, but and I'll just be very very quick, and we'll move on from there. The Black Panther Wakanda Forever movie. What happened, and this is my theory, just based on what I saw. I think that they were in the middle of production, writing the script for Black Panther 2 with Chadwick Boseman in mind. And then when he passed, they had to do a lot of rewrites. Because when I saw that movie, I could tell what was initially for Chadwick, and I could
Yep.
initially tell what they tried to change so that Shuri could be more of the focus, or other characters, Angela Bassett's the mother, the queen, whatever her name was. I blanked on her name, but anyway, like she had a prominent role in the movie, but there were other focuses, and the main focus seemed to be Namor versus Black Panther, Chadwick Boseman. But they did. I think that they pulled it off. I think they did a really good job honoring Chadwick Boseman as a tribute to him. Um, I think they worked with what they got. They worked with what they had. It was a good movie. You can't. I don't think you could possibly like that was like a cultural phenomena. Black Panther, you know, and then you also have other movies. I think that you do make a good point about the people. I would also argue, in addition to the actors, and I think actually a lot of the actors are pretty good. I like Shang-Chi. He
Hmm.
he did a pretty good job. Aquafina standing, but I actually like Aquafina. I know a lot of people hate her because of her voice and whatever. Um, but I actually think that a lot of it will has to do with the fact that Disney is restricting a lot of creativity in the
Hmm.
production, in the writing, and in the directing. And the directing in particular, this is where a lot of people like the Marvels, Nia DaCosta, who did Candyman and a few other movies, she was stuck on a conveyor belt and being like, no, Nia, you're not going to do what you think you want to do. You can do maybe little things here and there. You can have some diversity. You can have some this or that, but you're going to do exactly what we tell you because we know what's best. Oh, and by the way, that movie was one of the worst bombs that they've ever had. So maybe
Hmm.
if they actually listened to Nia, maybe they would have had a better result. But so to me, Disney and Marvel needs to get off people's asses. Let the filmmakers make good films, make engaging stories, make excellent art. They let Jake Shearer, the director of Thunderbolts, do his thing. And even if there may have been some interference here and there, look at the result. Look at what is resulting right now. It may be the weakest of the Avengers movies, but it is a really good step in the right direction. He did Beef. He did Beef with Ali Wong and Steven Yeun. I
Hmm.
mean, he's a really successful guy. Let him do the things that a lot of people are loving from him and let these other people do the same thing and not just, stamp it out of committee or put it on a conveyor belt.
Hmm.
That's really been the biggest problem. And I think that that is happening. The changes have been pretty okay. They've been pretty good. What's preventing them from going further? Unfortunately, it's Bob Iger and it's the overall Disney corporate structure that has prevented. Even Disney's main animated movies have been failing for a good reason because they only care about the money. They don't care about the creativity, and they haven't made it work. And it's been affecting Marvel as a result. And Marvel can recover and Marvel can bounce back, but Disney has to they got to get their act together in a
Hmm.
bunch of different ways.
Agreed.
So that's what it
Agreed.
really comes down to. So finally, I'm gonna just do one quick thing. This will really wrap things up. We have a lot to look forward to coming up. We really only have 4 confirmed movies with release dates, but we do have more coming down the road. So in July, we have Fantastic Four First Steps. That actually takes place in its own universe because Fox was acquired by Disney recently and they want to kind of like integrate the different Fox properties into the Marvel universe proper. Then a year from July, which is crazy because we're gonna have like a year gap, will be the new Spider-Man movie called Brand New Day. We won't get into that too much, but there is a connotation about that storyline and all sorts of different changes that may be happening down the road. But from what we know, they suggest that it's a more of a street level Spider-Man story as opposed to the others that were more like a John Hughes high school comedy and then leading up to, of course, the big multiverse sort of story with the Sinister Six and the multiple Spider-Man with Toby and Andrew. And then in December, we have Avengers Doomsday, and then a year from Doomsday is Secret Wars. So they're probably gonna have more to come. I know that they've been trying to finally get the Blade movie off the ground.
Yeah.
There may be
About
an
time.
Armor Wars that is a continuation from the Iron Man movies that has Don Cheadle, potentially Ironheart, which has her own show coming up, and of course the big one, the X-Men for the MCU. So there are some things coming up that are really exciting and very good, but Disney, you've got to get your act together and don't mess up the X-Men because there are some X-Men fans who, if you piss them off, they will come after you. Do not do it. It for your own good, Disney. Do not disappoint the X-Men fans.
Hmm. Agreed. Agreed. Yeah, I mean, I think that pretty much just like wraps it up. I mean, we
Yep.
talked about the movie, how Disney really needs to go ahead and they need to get everything rolling. Because if not, no mas, no mas, no mas, no
You're gonna
mas.
piss off a lot of people, and not just the comic book fans, but a lot of general fans of yours, and that's gonna be bad for you guys.
Hmm.
But
Yeah,
take it from us. Take it from us.
yeah, exactly. I mean, just keep it simple, stupid. Kiss. Keep it simple, stupid.
Yeah.
But I think that pretty much wraps it up. I got nothing else to say. Evan, you got anything else?
No, I will say this as we're wrapping up. Follow us on, hit the subscribe, hit the bell on YouTube. We are on Instagram, Internet Uncapped. Follow us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts.
Mhm.
Also, do not go up to Jennifer Love Hewitt and kiss her on the mouth. That is considered sexual assault, and you'll probably get sued for that. So don't do it. Now, until next time, Mitchell, this is Internet Uncapped. We are signing off. Bye bye, everybody.